Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Grand Tactician, the Civil War. We are ready to continue right where we left off. And as with the first two episodes, I want to just give you a quick update on the new patron units that we've added. On the first one here, this one is for Carson Horn, who is one of our newest patrons at the colonel level. Carson, I had to make a tiny change, and I figured you'd probably be okay with this, but if not, let me know. Carson requested that I make a unit with green jackets and black pants called the Celtic Klansmen. He asked that they be in the Army of the Ohio and be from Ohio. Now, unfortunately, I don't have enough Ohio recruits left to be able to do that. But Carson said he's actually from the South anyways, from Georgia, and he just thought Ohio would be a good choice. I don't know if it's because I live here in Ohio or what, but so I figured it wouldn't be a big deal if I made him from Pennsylvania instead. I live 8 miles from the Pennsylvania border, so Ohio, Western PA, Northeast Ohio are really very close to each other, and we interact and kind of work in different places and stuff. And so these could be Ohio boys that just signed up maybe in Mercer County, PA, just across the border or something. So there they are. They are in Garish's division, and it looks like 17 days from now they will join the Army of the Ohio. Just to show the other units that are on their way, 3 days the 95th Rifles will arrive. Mills Brigade is going to arrive in 1 day. Bravo Battery is going to arrive in 1 day as well. Over here in the Army of the Tennessee, Nelson, we finally have your Redcoats. They'll be there in 13 days. They're a part of the artillery division here, and we're waiting for the 1st Montero Rifles in 4 days. 1st Guardsmen, 1 day away. Double Days Guards Brigade is 5 days away. And then over here we have the Carolingian Guard. They're 18 days away. They're going to take some time to get there as they're coming from New Jersey. But they will arrive very, very soon. Let's dive into today's episode. So I've had a number of questions, people asking me whether or not United States colored troops are available in the game. Yes, they are. It's under policies right here that you can implement. There's an act that allows the recruitment of black volunteers and the forming of African American regiments. This act will greatly increase the number of available recruits, and 3 U.S. colored troop brigades will be added to Union armies immediately. The use of black soldiers against Southerners will infuriate them and will consolidate their morale and resolve. That's fine. I think right now we're pretty good on numbers. As you can see here, I've got 81,000 men in the field to his 120. So I don't think I need to do anything that's going to ramp up his morale. That's already really good. 85 on national morale, 93 national support. Morale of the armies is 82. We need to drive those numbers down. So in order to drive those numbers down, I need to start hitting him with some of the bigger armies. Now, I've taken and held West Virginia. He's moving forces in that direction, which means we need to counter that move with a move toward Richmond. I wasn't planning on doing that quite yet, but we're going to need to do it in order to keep him from going over and taking West Virginia back. So let's go ahead and find the Army of the Potomac right here. We're going to start moving McClellan and his 101,000 men south toward Fredericksburg, and we'll move each of the corps as well, at least the ones that are currently here. 4th Corps is right here under Keyes. We got the 1st Corps there. We've already got the 3rd Corps that has moved over toward Winchester. I got to see what other corps are here, but we'll get them moving. Now the 5th Corps is up here in West Virginia right now. So we don't have nearly that many men, but even a couple of corps moving toward Fredericksburg should make a difference. By the way, if you are a patron who has requested a unit and I haven't already added that unit, please reach out to me again. I may have missed your message. I did a post over on Patreon asking for folks just to comment under that. That's the easiest way to do it, just because it helps me to keep track of those all in one place. If you see the post, that means you're eligible to request a unit. So do it there if you would. I would appreciate it. If not, just shoot me a message again and I'll try to get that added. So we're going to continue to move Grant down toward the Army of the Ohio, see if we can crush these armies in the west, because we want to clear the path to go down and take Corinth and then eventually go toward Vicksburg. Now, it looks like the Army of the Mississippi and his 2nd Corps is planning to stay put where they are. We've also then got our Army of the Mississippi. Looks like we lost a small battle out west. Inflicted more casualties, though, so that's good. That one was simmed because we decided to allow that to happen. because I have a smaller force there, but we are waiting for reinforcements to arrive there. But we've now got a perk for the Army of the Southwest. And I think for this particular army, what I probably want is something that's going to help me with movement. I don't know. Field telegraph. So, yeah, this will decrease order delays. I think that'll be helpful since we're way out west. Oh, we actually get a second perk. Even better. I'm not entirely sure what some of these are going to do. Let's go ahead and do... Oh, we actually have 3 perks. Okay, perfect. Field ambulance corps for the third one. We're going to sit tight with the Army of the Southwest until our reinforcement brigade arrives, and I think that's going to be a while before that happens. Army of the Mississippi, right here. We don't have an Army of the Cumberland. We just have the Army of the Mississippi, Army of the Tennessee, Army of the Ohio. We're going to start moving them down toward Stewart's division. See if we can hit them and start clearing down the Mississippi River. Now, a problem we do have is that British intervention is at 69%. Now, there's a way to deal with that, and that's the Emancipation Proclamation. So, issuing this proclamation will declare all slaves in the Confederate States free. Remember, from history, the Emancipation Proclamation was a war measure, and it probably was going to be ruled unconstitutional once the war was over. Lincoln really didn't have the authority to do this. But what he basically was doing was, and there's a great explanation of this in the movie Lincoln if you watch it, he was using this as a war measure by basically arguing that, hey, if the South wants to consider their slaves to be property, then I can take property as an act of war. And since they take the property, then they can free the property if they want to. So the Emancipation Proclamation only freed slaves legally as a war measure in the areas that were in active rebellion against the United States, so primarily in the South. It didn't free slaves in Kentucky, Missouri, Delaware, Maryland, Washington, D.C. I think slavery had been banned in D.C. by that point, but it didn't free any of those slaves, and most of those folks, in effect, weren't freed until after the 13th Amendment was passed. But it had a huge effect in the North because it shifted the goal of the war from being about preserving the Union to being about something greater than that. So we are going to go ahead and pass emancipation because it's going to reduce the likelihood of British intervention because they're not going to intervene. The British Empire had outlawed the slave trade right around the turn of the century, and then it outlawed slavery itself in the 1830s. So it made it much less likely that the British were going to intervene on behalf of the Confederacy when the Union had declared slavery basically in effect at an end. So we're moving Grant now. Okay, there's another defeat. We're continued to interact. Yeah, now the Army of the Southwest is going to pull back. In fact, they're going to fall back pretty far. I don't really want them to fall all the way back to Leavenworth, Kansas. So let's see if we can get them instead to go this way. Well, those dirty rascals, the James River Squadron, which is a squadron of Confederate Navy, is bombarding Fort McHenry. So we're going to have a repeat of the Star-Spangled Banner here. We're going to send the Potomac Flotilla with 17 ships to go deal with these guys. How many do they have? See, they've only got 4 ships there, so we're going to deal with that right now. The Army of East Tennessee has left Knoxville. They're going over to try and be a part of, looks like, a shift. It looks like the Army of Mississippi is pulling back big time. They're pulling back toward Vicksburg. They're giving up Tennessee. So that's fine. Actually, the First Corps is still there and the Reserve Corps is there, so maybe that's why he's sending the Army of East Tennessee to reinforce them. So once again, we're going to try to employ the strategy that says, hey, if you're going to move from the area you were protecting, we're going to move in on that area. So we'll move the 7th Division down into Knoxville. Eastern Tennessee was much more pro-Union than many other parts of the South anyway. So that should be welcomed news there. I'm looking to see if my shift south is going to have any impact whatsoever on the Confederate movements. Lee's obviously moving his entire force toward West Virginia, leaving Richmond wide open, and I really don't understand that. But we'll probably see him make a move back in the other direction once he sees what I'm doing. All right, glorious victory at Thompson. Stuart surrendered. So that was the Army of the Mississippi moved south. 17,000 men under John Pope, who was taking on 3,600 Confederates. We captured 2,100 of those Confederates under Stuart. That's fantastic. So that hurts European support. So does the Emancipation Proclamation. It's now at 49%. So big change there. We're going to go ahead and move the Army of the Mississippi across the river now. And they're going to be part of our multi-pronged attack into western Tennessee and then eventually down toward Vicksburg. So it looks like now he's going to move the 2nd Corps out. Oh no, he moved them up by river. See here, he had me fooled. I thought he was pulling everybody back, and suddenly here comes the 2nd Corps. So this is about to get really interesting with Grant's army. All right, we dealt with that squadron that was bombarding Fort McHenry. Oh no, this is different. This is the Savannah Squadron, the Battle of the Atlantic. So it looks like they were just trying to break the blockade. So my blockade squadron of 19 ships took on Brockenbrough's squadron, Parker's squadron, Carter's squadron with some 3 ships. The engagement raged for 1 hour with no ships lost. All right, looks like it worked. Hill's Corps and the Army of the Peninsula are rushing back toward Richmond. They saw what I was doing. They didn't like it, and they're doing something about it. So we're going to go ahead and hold the Army of the Potomac right here, at least those elements of the Army of the Potomac that are there. I think that's going to work. We're about to take Knoxville, though. In fact, we have taken Knoxville. I think we're going to sit tight there. We might even build a fort. It's a good spot to build a fort, I think. We haven't done many things like that. We're only at 51% supply as well. So here's where it's going to start to become more of a challenge. Some of you have observed that, hey, so far it's been pretty easy to whip the Confederacy. And part of that's because of my huge advantage in manpower to start. But it's going to get increasingly difficult as I move further south, just as it was for the real Union Army, because I'm going to have to start extending supply lines, and I'm going to have to protect those supply lines, which means leaving troops behind to defend those things. I also really would like to start building telegraph, but it doesn't make sense, for example, to build a telegraph line here because I don't have anything to connect it to. I have to build a string of telegraph lines. But for now, I think we'll be okay. Just building a supply depot and then eventually maybe a fort. There it is. Lincoln emancipates the slaves. Did it a few months early. Lincoln historically issued the Emancipation Proclamation in September of 1862 following the Battle of Antietam. It took effect January 1st of 1863. Glorious victory at Island number 10. So this is from my crossing. Confederate defenses fall. We've taken Island number 10. I'm not sure why the Army of the Mississippi moved back across the river. I want them on this side of the river. Looks like Pope has leveled up his command now as well. He's actually only currently got 12,000 men on site because so much of the Army of the Mississippi is new recruits that I haven't actually gotten into place yet. Folks like the Excelsior Rifles. There's a brigade here under Dudley. What do we got here? This is the Oregon Volunteers. We've got Sweets, West Virginia 1st, and we've got Pillows Flying Artillery. Those are all units that have yet to be added to the command. So Army of the Mississippi is going to cross there, but we're going to sit tight now that we have crossed and wait for those reinforcements to arrive before we start moving them down toward Memphis. All right, Jackson's Corps, Army of Virginia, is in contact with the 1st Corps of the Army of the Potomac. How many men are we talking here? We're talking 8,400 men under Jackson. And, well, it's going to be a huge mess there for them. So I'm actually just going to auto-resolve that battle because I think we're going to drive Stonewall Jackson back pretty effectively, especially now that we have the 2nd Corps arriving as well. It's going to go pretty badly for him, I think. I take that back. Maybe I should have fought this battle because Lee's army arrived, Holmes's corps, Loring's corps, Pemberton's army, Jackson. Oh my gosh, this turned into a major battle that I didn't choose to fight. I wonder if I don't think it's possible to go in and fight it once you've already chosen that. So, dang. I hope McClellan doesn't screw this up. Oh, thank you, McClellan, for doing this right. Holy cow, it was a big one too. Glorious victory at Alexandria. Jackson's corps fleeing in panic. General Ord becomes a national hero. Support for their cause, rebel cause, wavers. The Battle of Alexandria was fought for 3 days between the Federal First Corps. It wasn't just the First Corps; those were reinforcements, obviously. 72,000 troops and 184 guns. And Confederate Jackson's corps with 29,000 troops and 100 guns. The battle raged for some 31 hours, with total casualties numbering 19,000. General McDowell's Yankees won a victory. Especially the leadership of General Ord is on the lips of every citizen. I don't know what level Ord's at, probably a brigade or division commander. But our casualties far less. We've actually also captured 3,000 Confederates. Union Army's unstoppable. We're also moving Grant on the armies near Nashville, and we should be engaging in combat there very, very soon. All right, so it looks like we got a minor engagement here between Chase's corps. It looks like it's all cavalry, 2,200 men from Cooper's army. So if they put Samuel Cooper in command of the Confederate Army, they must have. The Battle of Lewisburg. So that's in Greenbrier County. And the reason I know that is because the family that I inherit my last name from, my ancestry, actually comes from the Lewisburg area of Greenbrier County, West Virginia. So it looks like it's going to be 10,000 men under General Fremont against 5,200 men under General Chase total once they all arrive. I think we'll go ahead and play this one. All right. Well, I was just about to say that we're laying siege to Corinth. We've got a little glitch in the game that's messing up the military numbers for the Confederacy. I can't see the number of men they have. It's not showing right the casualties in the reports. So something glitched out in my save. Unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do about that. But I don't think it's going to prevent us from being able to continue the campaign. That's what, we're in early access. That's why we do these things, so we can kind of test that stuff out and we can show what's happening. But the good news is we did defeat the First Corps with General Grant. We're also moving multiple armies at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and pause so I can show you what's happening. So here's the situation out west currently. The Army of the Mississippi is moving on Memphis now that they've taken Fort Thompson and Island Number 10. The Army of the Tennessee has just won a victory at Corinth, and now we're going to lay siege to the important rail hub at Corinth. This, as you see here, the rail line that runs from Memphis over toward Atlanta runs right through Corinth. So it's a big, big deal to be able to take that. It looks like the Confederate Second Corps of the Army of Mississippi is laying siege to Fort Donelson. So we're going to send the Army of the Ohio over to deal with them. But the problem is that means we're going to give up Nashville. I should have built a fort there and a garrison to hold Nashville. So that didn't happen when I moved my armies out. But unfortunately, I didn't do that. So we'll have to have the Army of the Ohio kind of deal with north central Tennessee while we make our move down in that direction. Knoxville is well in our hands now. Nothing really to worry about. I don't see any Confederate forces anywhere in the neighborhood. And we're still going to kind of sit tight over here in Virginia while we wait for things to unfold in the west, and then we'll make our move on Richmond. All right, we've taken Corinth. We did successfully cause the Second Corps to back off from sieging Donelson, so now we're going to move back with the Army of the Ohio to secure Nashville, and we'll definitely build a fort there now. Army of the Mississippi is laying siege to Memphis, Tennessee. It doesn't appear they have a lot in the way of defense there. I should probably, though, go ahead and send my Navy down there to help with that. Okay, so looks like we did cause a surrender in Memphis. It wasn't without casualties, though. The enemy lost 185 captured, so we basically took the garrison defending Memphis, which wasn't much. We did lose 3,500 men in the process. So that was a little bit difficult, but I think we've taken Memphis, or at least taken the outskirts of Memphis. Oh, that was Fort Pillow up here. Okay. So we didn't yet take Memphis. We just took the fort on the Mississippi. We're going to send the Mississippi River Squadron down to help. So what I want to do now is I want to add to the garrison of those forts that I've just taken, Fort Pickering, Fort Pillow. Pickering has a total capacity of 5,000, but only 75 garrison troops. So at the very least, we could add an artillery battery there. We're really low on available manpower, though, other than in New York and Pennsylvania. So we're going to have to choose wisely here, but I do want to try and choose places that are close by. Ah, man, there's just not a lot of men to choose from. I guess Michigan will have to do it for this artillery battalion. We'll go ahead and add them, but it's going to take 17 days for them to get there. Same with Fort Pillow. We're just going to add an artillery unit to kind of hold down that fort. Let's send some Kansas boys to hold Fort Pillow. Shouldn't take quite as long. 29 days. I guess Kansas is pretty far out to the west, even from the Mississippi River. Well, this was a gutsy move by the Confederacy. He sent the Army of East Tennessee up into Kentucky toward Louisville. I don't know if that's an effort to try and push Kentucky into the Confederacy or not, but we're going to have to send the 7th Division up to counter that move. How many men does he have? 13,000 men. That's actually slightly more than I have in the 7th Division. I don't really have any other troops up here to counter that. Good move. Well, guess he changed his mind. He got almost all the way to Louisville, and then he saw my army coming, and he decided to get out of Dodge. So I think we're going to actually go ahead and pursue him anyway. And while I'm thinking about it, if you would, there's a link in the description below. It's the very first thing. I mentioned this in a channel update that I put out earlier today, but this will have a much wider audience. For a long time now, if you're new to the channel, I have been posting vlogs from when I visit historic sites. So when I visited the Shiloh battlefield last year, I shot about a 30-minute video showing you the battlefield. But those videos tend to get lost in the gaming channel. So I started a new channel called Vlogging Through History, where I'm putting all of those videos, and there's 60 to 70 of them from various places I've gone. I've been to a number of Civil War battlefields. I've been to the USS Constitution, a lot of famous cemeteries, West Point Military Academy, places like that. I've been putting them all over there. So if you would click on the link in the description, head over and subscribe to that channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you have an interest in seeing sites of historic interest, not only here in the United States, but next year when I go to the UK, I'll be making a lot of videos from historic sites there as well. So check that out. Thank you very much. So it looks like our Mississippi River Squadron has successfully driven his off. So we're going to be pushing him out now. That's going to help us secure the Mississippi River as far south as Memphis, which means the next stop is going to be Vicksburg. Army of the Ohio versus the Army of East Tennessee. This is probably how we'll end this video today, is fighting this battle outside of Nashville on April 20th. So I may not have actually played this particular battle because I have such an advantage at 2-1, except this is an opportunity for us to see some of these Patron units in combat for the first time. So we've got the Bravo Battery, Battery 218 Field Artillery here under Colonel George Green. Colonel Justin Dimmick is controlling Mills Brigade, who is in combat for the first time. We've got the 95th Rifles under Samuel Sturgis, ready to go into combat. And then the Celtic Klansmen, conveniently commanded by an Irish officer, Thomas Neal. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we're going to get to see those elements of Buell's army in combat for the first time. It does look like I've got a few brigades that have been with the army a little longer that have some perks ready to be assigned. So I'll go ahead and get those going. But having a nice advantage in numbers gives me some freedom as far as my deployment. We are fighting on the Stones River battlefield yet again. There is, if you check out on the website, their roadmap for new features, the very first feature after early release is the first map pack. So we should be getting to see some new maps as well as some generic maps that aren't necessarily historic battlefields, so give us a little bit more variety on the maps that we fight on. But since we're fighting these battles, several battles in the same general area near Nashville, we can expect to see some battlefields used more than once because we are refighting in those same areas. I'm sending Wood's division over here to cover this crossing just in case, although I know he could probably sneak in somewhere else. I figured I could spare one division to do that. I might spread them out a little bit, maybe, and put the brigades along the river a little more. I don't have any cavalry with Buell's army, but the main part of my force I'm going to put right here at these two bridges as well as this railroad bridge, thinking that might be where he chooses to cross. I don't know. He may cross upstream a little further, like over here. It probably would make sense, but we'll have to just plan accordingly. So right now I have infinite engineering points. I've never seen infinite engineering points, but what that means is that with engineering points, that gives me the ability to build fortifications, and this is a tough spot for him to cross as it is. The Stones River is a substantial body of water, and I don't see them crossing it easily, but it seems like it'd be really great to also be able to build fortifications there. So let's take a look and see. We can do breastworks or even a parapet. Only able to build those during the deployment phase. I've never tried to build parapets before, but holy cow, wouldn't that be a lot of fun to do? So let's at least go ahead and give it a try. And see how that works out. Okay, so how it works is you give the orders during deployment phase, but then you actually click on your units, like the Celtic Klansmen here. You right-click on them, and they actually go in and start building the parapets. So it's an opportunity to see those for the first time, and these rebels would be fools to try and attack me at this location. Boy, I hope I get more opportunities to build things like this, because that could make for some really interesting battle situations if he decides to attack somewhere like this. So you can see they have a few, like the Celtic Klansmen here, have a few men that are actually doing the work, while the rest kind of stay in battle locations ready to go. I don't even know that the Confederates are going to attack there. They'd be ridiculous to do so. Well, it does look like he crossed upriver, as I probably would have done myself if I were him. I want to at least show you what it looks like now to have occupied the parapets. We're still giving orders for a couple of them to get into position, but we've actually got basically what amounts to trenches that we've dug. We end up with the Celtic Klansman over here, right on the left side. But he has obviously crossed upriver from us. So we're going to have to go ahead and get into a different defensive position. Well, we made a major mistake here. I decided, because it looked like he was spreading out and taking all the objective points, I decided to advance my wing divisions out to try and find him. And I ran into the main body of his force just as I had given withdrawal orders. And I couldn't get new orders to my men in time, so it looks like they're being fired in. They're being just devastated. The 21st Brigade has lost 871 men because they've just been harassed the entire time, and I couldn't get orders to them in time to get them to turn around and fire. So, oh boy, what a mess. What an absolute mess. Okay, so the 872 casualties is a little misleading because we were actually showing 800 wounded when the battle began. So I guess that's probably not real accurate. The 57 killed is probably more indicative of maybe about 300 to 400 that we've had wounded so far overall. Now we've got Bravo Battery, 218th Field Artillery set up in a beautiful spot right here to try and cover these men as they get across the bridge. We've got Mills Brigade ready to go. We're going to move them up just a hair. So their medium engagement range is going to take them to be able to cover right at the start of the bridge. And then hopefully we can get Garfield's brigade in a spot here on the wing. They've only lost 156 men overall, where they can do some damage. I'm mainly worried about Wagner's brigade with the losses that he's suffered, but I think we'll be okay. We might want to bring some reinforcements over to help out. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and bring the Celtic Klansmen over from their spot, and we're going to get them as a support unit behind this, just in case somebody breaks. It's actually 2:18 in the afternoon. So we went through about a day and a half with little happening before we finally made contact with the army. And he's got them in a column. He's going to try to get across that bridge one unit at a time. I can't believe they'd be able to get down into this water and march up the other side. He's got skirmishers going across. Alright, Bravo battery's in good shape. Mills Brigade's going to get the first crack at him here in a second. Trying to get a better view of what's happening here. He's actually not quite in range for Mills to open up. Let's go ahead and change their order up a little bit. Tell them to go ahead and engage at long range. There's no way he gets across this bridge. Here comes the order, and here comes the Celtic Klansman in a reserve role. Getting loaded and ready. Alright, Dimmick, get your boys to pour it into him. He is coming up the other side and hitting Garfield. But I think Garfield should be in pretty good shape. I think I'm going to send Neil over to this side because I feel like that's the side that's more likely to break. We should be watching just to make sure there's no Confederates anywhere else crossing. It doesn't appear there is, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and send the Celtic Klansmen all the way over here because they could probably get some devastating flanking fire into these rebels as they're just massing, trying to get across this bridge. And as we've seen before, these bridges become really nice choke points, especially on an embankment like this where it's pretty steep and they almost have to go across the bridge. And we can just completely wreck this Confederate force. You can see now that the numbers are much better than they were before. He needs to try and get those men across as best he can. I'm not sure why they stopped there. I wanted them to come all the way around. How are we doing here? Wagner's doing okay. They're good. They're firing. First combat for future President James Garfield's brigade. Dimmick, we've got to level up. Deadly volley. I like that idea. Pour it into him, boys. Oh, yeah. Only thing that would have made this better is if they had been attacking where I have the parapets. Now, as I mentioned before, it's going to get more of a challenge when we have to go into the Deep South. And it's especially going to be a challenge when we take on the role as the Confederate side. And I think I may be inclined to push the... Oh, he got across. To push the AI aggressiveness all the way up to max at 5. Remember, this is an early access game, so there are going to be a lot of tweaks to gameplay. Now that they have a lot more people playing the game, it's going to be easier for them to find out what needs fixed and what needs made better. So this is not at all what this game is going to look like even 3 months from now. But there's so much promise here. There really is. Oh, I just love what we're doing right now. But he did get some guys across, but look at that killed number now. Man, it just became massive. This was just a death trap for this Confederate forces. We do have the Celtic Klansmen. They've lost 13 men. They've got to pursue these guys because they did manage to get across, but now they're taking off. Maybe what we'll do is we'll just break off some skirmishers to go deal with them, just to kind of keep them occupied. keep the Celtic Klansmen, the main brigade, around as a reserve force. Keep it up, boys. Keep it up. Alright, I think we're in good shape there. Let's make sure nothing else is happening around the battlefield. It doesn't appear there is. I'm curious to see how many of his units are actually engaged. As you can see, he's only got 10,000 men. We're up to 27,000. If I see which of his units have taken casualties, we can kind of get a sense that looks like everybody but Barton's brigade's actually been engaged. So this is the majority of his army. So we're going to go ahead and start moving out where we can. Alright, I've sped things up a little bit to 10 times. We're going to bring the Celtic Klansmen up here. Because, oh man, did Garfield's unit... Yeah, Garfield finally broke under the pressure of that relentless Confederate attack there. So we need Neil to get up here and make up the difference now. And I think we're going to have to go ahead and bring some help down. Let's bring Garish's division down this way. Actually, I'd like to get them across on this side. And go from there. Darn you, Thomas Neal. So Neal, against orders, advanced down into the bridge. I guess he wanted to see some glory for himself. And he got his unit broken. They did level up, and I guess maybe Spirited Charge would have helped in that case. But the Celtic Klansmen have broken. I tried to rally them as best I could. Let's see if we can get General Wood to rally his men. There's a commander perk where we can do that. So he's going to ride forward and try to rally them as best he can. It looks like it might work. Come on, boys. Rally. Rally. Now what's this? Amon's brigade just came down in to try and bail them out. I didn't want them to go into the water, but that's apparently what they're going to do. We've got Hazen coming over now. Neil's lost 750 men. Oh, that was so stupid. All we had to do was sit there. We did not need to do that. All right, Neil, get your men out of there. This is turning into a much more of a bloodbath than I was hoping it would. Let's go ahead back out and look at the numbers overall. So we lost 306 killed, 2,200 wounded, 219 missing, 2,700 casualties, 4,500 for him. Well, that's 35% of his army. Here comes Stevenson's brigade charging into me. Since they broke my left, they were able to get across. Having a little trouble with the camera here. Alright, boys, get into him. I don't like Amon being down there. Let's bring Mendenhall with his 6-pounders over here to help out with the artillery. So I had one brigade that went around this side. We're going to bring him around over here. I think we'll bring the balance of McCook and his division up as well. There we go. We shattered Stevenson. So now let's go ahead and reform our battle line. We'll get Dimmick with Mills' brigade up here. We'll have Hazen cover the flank. And then we'll try to come over and hit him since he's gotten bunched up before he can get everybody across and reform his battle line. Okay, so we hit Ledbetter. We took him out. Thomas Neal was actually wounded. So we won a major victory, but that was way more costly than I wish it would have been. Let's just go ahead and take a look and see how things resolved as far as the commanders go. I have a feeling Thomas Neal might be disgraced on this one, but it's going to depend on the fact that he was wounded and whether or not that matters. Yeah, no surprise there. Colonel Green became famous and is an inspiration for his men. I believe that's the artillery commander for the 218th Battery, but I could be wrong. But Colonel Neal, no doubt, has fallen to disgrace. That was just a ridiculously stupid decision on his part. He had a great defensive position. He decided to go for glory and advanced his men, and it drives me nuts that he did that, but that's war. People do stupid things, and Colonel Neal did something stupid with our brand new Celtic clansmen, and he deserves to be disgraced for it. So let's go ahead and wrap up this episode by looking at the newspaper report here. You can see here the leadership of Colonel Green is on the lips of every citizen. Nothing we're seeing about any Confederate generals actually dying or being wounded, but General Ledbetter lost face. He was one of the first ones to break on the Confederate side. I want to take a look real quick at that army because I do believe that General Green was the artillery commander there. We just got to go to that army first. Yep, Colonel Green was the Bravo Battery 218th Field Artillery Commander, and he was the one who won glory for himself there. So, sorry about Thomas Neal. Hopefully we will learn from our mistake here. Man, they've only got 113 men left. We're going to probably have to build a new unit to combine him with. So that they can stay alive, but we've absolutely got to get a better commander in place of him. It looks like... no, I don't think Tyler's the guy. Let's see who else is available. Charles Stone's a decent commander. He's good at administration, but nothing else. Zealous Tower, no, not so much. Orlando Wilcox, there we go. That's a very good commander. All right, Wilcox is going to take over that unit, but we're definitely going to have to get them reinforced. Man, they were just devastated in their first action. I feel terrible about that. All right, we're going to drop things right there for now. Go ahead and leave me your comments. Drop a like if you would. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow with another episode. Thanks for watching.